Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, Chris Tarr is our guest. Why? Because he's got some cool information to share with us. You know, he's working with the folks at K-LOVE now, and they have a really good structured engineering department where Chris gets good help in the field. He's able to do a lot more, and he's not bothered by 2 a.m. phone calls that don't apply to him. There's all kinds of benefits to the way they're doing things. So Chris is going to describe that, what the equipment racks do at a K-LOVE transmitter site, and we're going to understand the attitude of gratitude. It's all coming up next on TWiRT.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Air, featuring Playout One radio automation software, comprehensive streaming solutions, website content management, and social media tools for maximum listener engagement on the web at AIIR.com. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts.
Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything technology-wise from radio, from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. Hey, I'm Kirk Harnack in Nashville, Tennessee, back in Nashville. We spent 4 weeks in Spain, and that was exciting. I want to thank Suncast for being very accommodating on helping produce the shows that we did from Spain. Suncast is our technical producer and does a great job, and thanks for his accommodations for doing the shows from Spain. He was very helpful. All right. Well, it's here we are. I'm live in the Angry Audio studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. Angry Audio, one of our sponsors here. And let's see. That's about it. It's cold. It's a cold January day, clear and cold, and maybe a touch of snow tomorrow morning. So that's the conditions where I'm at here in Nashville. Our guest and our co-host, I got to pay him twice, right? Is Chris Tarr. Hey, Chris, welcome in. Good to see you, man.
Good to be seen. It is cold here in Milwaukee. I woke up this morning. It was 9 degrees. I think it's 25 now. And I'm at ATC Tower site at the Tower Farm, and it's actually Shorewood, Wisconsin, just a north, what would it be, northeast near suburb of Milwaukee. So I'm here working on a project today for K-LOVE, and it's been a long day.
Well, yeah. But you're feeling all right. You're healthy. You're in good shape.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No, it's interesting because I'm back into field engineering now, which I love. I'm having such a fun time. And we'll get into some of that in a little bit. But I've been out here all day working on a project, and took a quick break here to be with you and grab some late lunch. I've been so busy. So here I am.
So the topic of today's show, and we're going to do a couple of prerequisites here before we hit our first commercial break. But on our show, Chris, I've noticed that since you've taken a new job with a different broadcasting company, and you were very happy where you were, you always spoke very highly of your previous arrangement. But you post on social media, and this is what I'm going to ask you about, and you're going to add to it, about how your new job is different, how the structure of your engineering comrades is a little bit different, and how you feel well supported. And so we're going to hear more of your thoughts about that, because the way that you're working now may be more of a way of the future for people. For some companies, they're already doing it similar to this. You've just jumped into that kind of engineering structure, corporate structure, where you feel well supported, and maybe other companies will be doing the same thing. So we'll talk about that. And also myself, I don't like talking about my own situation a whole lot, but a lot of you know from a posting I made on Facebook that my former employer, Telos Alliance, and I, after 25-year career, just amazing, loved it, loved the people that I worked with. We have parted ways. I'm going to go in some new directions and take on some different responsibilities. And it was a good time for us to part ways. So I've already said on social media, I really wish my former colleagues now and still friends at Telos Alliance really good luck and good wishes and continued success in developing more and new broadcast products, going boldly, the things that Telos Alliance has always done. So at the moment, I'm a free agent. I've got a few things lined up to do. And I'm having conversations with different companies and some other entrepreneurs. So, wow, after 25 years, the only thing that's, consistent is change. So, hey, let's not take the first break just yet. Chris, how have I described that? And you've changed jobs a number of times in the last 15 years. For me, this is the first time in 15 or 25 years.
Well, let me, and some people have asked, and I'll clear that up right now. I actually still help out with Magnum, which is where I was at. Love it. Great position. Love doing it. Those of you who know me know that I'm very involved with my church, very involved in faith-based things. And the opportunity came up to join the K-LOVE ministry. And it really, again, I was kind of led there. So that's what brought me to K-LOVE. And, I wasn't unhappy or anything. And it really was one of those things that just kind of organically happened. So here I am, loving it. Again, I'm 100% on board with K-LOVE's mission and what they're trying to do. And I love that. I love, what they're trying to do with the ministry. And I'm humbled and honored that I get to help and use my superpowers for good rather than evil. So I've been here a few months now, still kind of learning the ropes. And we'll talk about generally, that was one of the disclaimers is I obviously can't get into some details on this, but kind of talk broadly about some of the things that K-LOVE does. And also that goes for iHeart and Odyssey. They're starting to do some of the same things. And how that makes life for engineers better and why we need to embrace it.
I'll say that my first experience, not with K-LOVE, but my first experience with seeing K-LOVE's engineering at work and the thought that goes into what they end up putting at transmitter sites and of course I've seen studios too, is it's probably been now 8 or 9 years ago that some of my radio stations moved into a transmitter building. And then later on, K-LOVE moved in. And the first thing K-LOVE did was make a number of important improvements to the way the building worked and the airflow and the air conditioning. And then they brought in an equipment rack. And that's one of the things you're gonna talk about after our commercial break, Chris. And just looking at the rack, I thought, wow, this makes a lot of sense. This is how it ought to be done. Anyway, I'm not gonna we'll let you wet. How am I trying to say this? We'll keep the powder dry and let you talk about it when we come back. I'm sorry, I'm getting tang-tungled here because I don't want to spoil it, but I do want to tease it. So there we go. All right, hey, This Week in Radio Tech. This is, what episode is this? 783 or something like that. Our show is brought to you in part by our friends at AIR, AIIR.com. And hey, fellow engineers, it's one of the things that we can do for our employers, for our radio stations, is bring good ideas. And they don't have to be engineering ideas. If you can bring something to the table, if you can bring something to ownership and management that saves money, makes it work better, helps the station out, hey, that's part of what we do. We look for technologies and techniques that will help us as broadcasters. Here's Ricky Lee to talk about a great one.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month, all you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through Air?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming. And from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Really cool. Thanks a lot to Air for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And hey, if you're coming to NAB in April, yours truly, I get to be in the Air stand on their booth at NAB. Not the whole time, but I'm going to be there for a few times here and there. Mostly, I'm there to answer questions and give some testimony about how good their Playout One system is. So check us out at NAB. All right. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack and Chris Tarr here. Chris, this is kind of your show. I may be, I may be over here in the heckling booth or to ask questions, that I don't understand something you said. So I know you. One thing every time we've talked about this, you wanted to maybe start talking about the pre-wired equipment racks and how that's a different technique than most of us as engineers are used to doing. Usually, we build things on site, and you're learning a different way of doing it. So why don't you take it away and talk about what you want?
Sure. Well, a group like K-LOVE, company like K-LOVE, with stations all over the place, and they make acquisitions and things. Obviously, at this scale, as a field engineer, I have a ton of support. There's an operations group, there's a shop, and they're all there to support the field engineers. And one of the goals is to make sure that we don't, we don't run into issues out in the field, that we can get our jobs done as easily and as possible. And part of that is making sure that things are accessible back at headquarters so that they can monitor things, which requires some standardization. So what we do is we pre-wire and pre-populate racks that are going to get shipped out to the field. So our shop takes a rack, puts all the equipment in, wires it up. And you mentioned earlier, one of the coolest features of these racks is they put in motion sensing LED lights in the back of the rack. So when you open the back doors, it lights up and you can see everything. It's so thoughtful. But for example, today I'm working on a station we acquired, and they shipped out, through a truck or whatever, shipment of a pre-populated, pre-wired, ready-to-go rack. And all I had to do was roll it out, configure some things that are specific to the site that I'm at, and plug it in. I had our equipment on the air probably an hour after I uncrated it and got the rack out. It was ready to go. Now I have some more work to do with some of the finer points, wiring in some of the existing equipment that I need to keep, and things like that. But there's some really great things for that, and some really great solutions that they've come up with, and helping us out in the field like that. For example, I don't have to guess, do I have all the equipment? They don't have to ship everything out separately. Second of all, we have the Network Operations Center, fantastic group of people. I love them to death. And they work really, really hard. It's staffed 24/7. And their job is, again, to be our front line. They monitor all the transmitters, pretty much every parameter you can think of, they monitor 24/7. Excuse me. So it's really important that our racks are set up in a way that, it's pretty standard and pretty consistent from rack to rack to rack. Because, otherwise it gets confusing when you've got this many stations and, what's, what is this plugged into? What is that plugged into? So, all of the ports on our switches are labeled and have a specific, port whatever, 23 on a switch is always going to be RDS, things like that. And we also obviously have IP controlled PDUs, power distribution units, so we can reboot equipment. We have temperature probes. So we know what the temperature is of the stack of the transmitter, the room temperature, outside temperature. And they actually can see, they have radar in the dock, and they can see weather in the area, and that sort of thing. And what's fantastic is, again, they're kind of the front line. And so they are able to sometimes take care of minor issues. And then, they can make the decision on whether or not to contact the field engineer if it's something bigger. They will always tell the field engineer what they've done and what's going on so that they know. And if there has to be something, transmitter adjustment or things, something like that, they'll call the field engineer and, talk it out, and the field engineer will give them direction on what to do. So what's great about that is for an example, we had a translator that had an iced antenna, and it had gone off the air. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of me getting a phone call from a remote control, the NOC took care of it. They said they put in their notes that there was a weather-related issue. This was a problem. They sent me an email saying, "Hey, by the way, this happened. We had another issue with a power outage." Where they said, you're off the air, but it's a power outage. I've already contacted the power company. Here's the estimated time of restoration. And then as soon as the power came back on, I got an email from them again saying, "Hey, we got a call from the utility. Power's back on. We've checked. Everything's good." So that's an entire series of events that I didn't have to do anything. It was all handled by our network operations center. And I'll tell you, how great is that? It's fantastic. And with the racks being put together the way they are, I can even direct them. I had them call and say, one of the stations is silent. I said, well, can you reboot the encoder? So they did manually, they went in and they rebooted the encoder and everything came back. So so back to the rack a little bit. So that's why, these racks, it's important that they're configured the right way. And instead of having me spend 2 days wiring up a rack, they have a staff of people who do that. And what they do is they go in and they rewire the rack the way it's supposed to be. They throw in a bag of goodies, some wires and rack screws and things that we might need. And they pack it, they burn it in. They have it in the shop. If you go in any given moment, you'll see a couple of racks sitting there plugged in doing their thing. They want to make sure everything's working before they ship it out. Then they pack it up in a crate and ship it out to us. And we just slide it out, and most everything is ready to go. We just plug in the rack. And then there's some things that sometimes we keep some older equipment or something, and we move it over. But not only that, this is so cool. We have an internal utility that shows all of the gear that's in the rack. And you can click on the IP address of that piece of gear and open up the interface to it. We can track gear. We can, monitor things. We can see what the temperatures are in the room. So it really is, for the field engineer, I can concentrate on, some of the important stuff, making sure the wiring's cleaned up, making sure everything's functioning, the site maintenance, things like that. And again, I can call if there's an issue with the rack. It's great because there's a whole team of, NOC engineers and networking engineers. And I can call them and they get on the phone, and because they also know the rack, because they built it, they can help me, walk me through issues that we have. So I think that, and again, I don't know how iHeart does it. I suspect that they probably do something similar. And I know that Odyssey just recently turned on their network operations center. It really it keeps things very consistent, well done, because they have the shop has the time to wire up these racks and do it properly and label everything. They get the IP addresses programmed. So it really saves the field engineers a whole lot of time. And when you've got a territory that's often a state or two,
Yeah.
To take 3 days out just to wire up a rack and make sure it works, and make sure that everything's plugged in the right way. That is, that keeps you off the road, really unnecessarily. I mean, there's really no reason why we need to be building racks in this day and age, because everything's Cat 5, and there's no punch blocks or anything. You can literally, this rack is on wheels. You wheel it in, you connect your audio in, which is usually contained in the rack, and then the audio out to the transmitter. Everything else is ready to go. So it saves so much time.
Can you help me envision, if not the brands or the pieces of equipment, but what are the functions that occur in the rack? What has to happen? You need this function, this function, this function, this function, and then that's all the things that go in the rack.
Everything. It is literally a radio station in a rack. We've got EAS encoder, the receiver for the audio, mod monitor, the EAS tuners, KVM. So we have a remote KVM, so we can see the equipment, remotely. Obviously, network switches. We have two. We have our router and our network switch. So and processor, obviously. So I'm serious when I say it is a complete radio station in a rack. You plug it in, get the, either the antenna or IP or whatever, into the audio encoder, and there's audio, and it's already running into the processor and everything else. So you take your composite output and you plug it into the transmitter. So, there are things like I have to get some, you have to put in some external antennas for the EAS monitor receivers and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it literally, I've gone into sites and taken out 2-3 racks of equipment, and just pulled them out and just wheel one rack in, a couple of connections, and we're good to go. So, I mean, everything you'd find in a radio station is in this rack.
Well, except the programming. The programming comes from a central location.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm sure someday, we'll have playout systems and those sorts of things as well. So, it really is, everything you need to put a radio station on the air in a rack.
I know that they used to build these in Rockland, California. Has K-LOVE moved the location where they build these?
Yeah, it's all done now in the new Franklin facility.
Okay.
And I was able to get a tour of that building and be able to go down and see them put the racks together. Just a fantastic group of guys. And again, they know these things in and out. So when I have an issue, I can call the people who built it and say, hey, what's this about? What's that about? And I have complete control over everything. So it's not even, a nice way to put it is they work with us and they are there to support us. So if there is something specific that I need, I can certainly request that. And, it's not a, here, we're going to push this stuff to you and here it is. And, you're going to have to deal with it the way it is. I can always call them and say, hey, I need some customizations here. Or I have something specific, or, and there are some times where I can't get a fully populated rack. So maybe they send a half rack, or, there are cases where they send just the gear, and they'll send, they always call it a care package of assorted cables and connectors and screws and stuff. Like I said, down to the rack screws. There's a bag of rack screws that come with it. So we really, don't really have to have anything in our trucks to bring in other than a screwdriver. And we're all set to go. So, again, it's a matter of high quality, consistent product. And, and again, with all identical equipment, with identical wiring and identical ports, it really is almost the only way to be able to run this kind of a group and have the field engineers not pull their hair out because, again, with all of these stations, we can be pretty busy at times. And to be able to have a first line of defense that handles, the late night, overnight calls for things that really aren't issues or easily resolved with a transmitter cycle or something like that, I don't get those calls. And because of the infrastructure, the network operations center can do that. And I think, not specifically anymore, I think that's where the industry is going. And it does a lot to help attract talent. I know I certainly appreciate not getting phone calls all the time from transmitter sites. I get a call from my friendly person at the dock saying, "Hey, good morning. Sorry to wake you. We've got this issue. What would you like me to do?" And I can tell them, yeah, you can do this or that, or yeah, I'm going to have to run and take care of that. So we're able to really dial that in and make sure that things get done. So I know again that a lot of other broadcast groups are moving to that model because again, it just as engineers take on more stations, to have 800 different remote controls calling, you're never going to be sleep.
Yeah.
You just keep getting phone calls, and oftentimes it's for something that really isn't a big deal. You're basically rebooting something or whatever. And with the scale of some of these larger broadcast companies, they can afford to have operators 24 hours a day to take those calls and to make those decisions. And,
Right.
Basically they're there to back us up. Same thing with ordering gear and things like that. So I really do think that's where the future is going to be. And again, K-LOVE has done a very good job of making sure that their field engineers have what they need, and that we're not pulling their hair out to keep up with things. And I know outside of having a large group, I tried to do a similar thing when I was with Magnum. Standardizing racks and IP addresses and port numbers and things like that. Because again, it's the old Bell system. They used to have a thing where they would say they want to be able to have any Bell company tech walk into any Bell company office and immediately know where everything is.
Yeah.
I tried to do that at Magnum. I know, a lot of groups are doing that now. K-LOVE is fantastic with that. I can walk in to any K-LOVE site and immediately know what I'm going to find and how it all works. There's really no secrets, or no very little deviation from site to site. And if there is, we usually it's well documented. And I can call the NOC and say, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, here in my notes it says this." So it's very helpful that way.
Hey, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, I'm curious about what you think that engineers, like most of us, don't have a knock. We don't work for a company that is so well organized on the engineering side. We're still out there doing things for ourselves. And maybe we save this for our last segment, but I want you to think about what advice, how can we learn from what K-LOVE does, and maybe what some other larger organizations are doing too. How can we apply that to our own stuff? There's some stuff we may never have on our own. And, I just realized the knock is this wonderful filter. If we have one of our stations off the air, I get a call and somebody's got to, unless we have enough remote control, somebody's going to have to roll out there and see what's wrong. And one of the other things I'd like you to talk about, maybe right after this break, is it feels like K-LOVE has figured out all the things that we can monitor that are important. Okay, maybe this sensor is $800, but it's important. Maybe this sensor is kind of included anyway, and we don't need an extra thing there. But it'd be nice to know some of the things that K-LOVE has figured out that need to be monitored so that they can avoid rolling Chris Tarr out there when it's something that the NOC could take care of, or at least could really investigate. I love having them as a filter, not waking you up for the power going out. So anyway, we'll have questions like that for you coming up. It's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack here in the Angry Audio studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. Chris Tarr is my guest, and he's talking about what he's learned in working with the folks at K-LOVE in a very structured, fun but structured engineering environment. Our show is brought to you in part by another kind of rack that is, in a way, kind of pre-wired. You know what's in there, or you know what you're putting in there, and that's the virtual rack from Broadcast Bionics. Now, it's not an EAS system. It's not a transmitter. But what it is a box. It's a server that you can put the broadcast functionalities that you want into it. Some of those are from Telos Alliance, things like a phone system or an audio console. These run as containers within the virtual rack, or an audio processor. Then you have functions available from Ferncast, from Sound4, from 2WCOM. Some of these are processors, some are codecs of different description. And the cool thing about virtual rack is, well, you know the hardware, and the people at Broadcast Bionics know the hardware. It's an off-the-shelf server that has a nice management layer that's been put in there. You turn it on. It gives you a list of the broadcast functionalities that you can install. And literally, you hook it up to your network, goes to the internet, you tell it, hey, I want one of these and one of these and one of these, and it installs them typically in under 2 minutes each. You tell it IP addresses that you want, and there's other functionalities you can have running, like you can have a hot backup, you can have a heartbeat. You can buy two of these and have the same functionalities or similar in the two, and have a failover, if you will, and hot backup. It's amazing what this box can do, and more importantly than the box, it's amazing what the management software does for you. It takes away the mystery of Linux, and I'll tell you, installing containers that actually work with audio over IP and talk to each other, that's a little bit complex. It actually is. I worked with the folks at Telos Alliance, and it's not child's play to make these things. It's not just like installing an app. I wish it was, but it's not. But it's also very robust. And the folks at Broadcast Bionics, Dan McQuillan and his team, have really made this easy and impressive. As they say, you can deploy containerized products without being a Linux expert. Hey, on the page that Suncast is showing you here at the bottom of the page, there are links to some YouTube videos where Dan McQuillan explains very nicely how this works, what the virtual rack is, and how you can make it work. He does some demos there. And Dan's also been on our show to describe this in great detail. And I got to tell you, I'm a huge believer. Love the virtual rack from Broadcast Bionics. They make other stuff too that's great for your radio station. And you, the engineer, look like a hero when you suggest this stuff, help get it put in, get the staff using some of the products that they make. Good stuff from Broadcast Bionics. Thanks so much, Broadcast Bionics, Dan McQuillan and his crew, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech, and for making things for broadcasters that make our job so much easier. And one of those is the virtual rack. I'm Kirk Harnack in Nashville, Tennessee, This Week in Radio Tech. So glad to be home. We've been home for a few days now, and Carmen and I got back here this past Saturday evening, and been just trying to take a breath and catch up from the travel to Spain. All right, Chris Tarr is our guest, and Chris is like so many of us, learning new things all the time. And it's great when you learn not by stubbing your toe, but by having somebody show you where the furniture is. You know what I mean, Chris? I do. We as engineers, we learn by, this broke, and learn how to fix it. And you're in an environment now where there are nicer ways that you learn a lot of stuff, right?
Absolutely. And again, to not take away from the fact that they really encourage innovation and testing new things and trying new things. So, while it sounds like we just kind of a robotic, here's your rack, plug it in, we're encouraged to, they're, as they like to say, they're not in the field. So they don't really deal with some of the things that we deal with. In fact, I know Bill Jackson, that we've had on the show earlier, has said, he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I need you to break stuff for me. And, what he means is out in the field, try things and break things and tell them what happened and, constantly come up with ways to improve what we do. So, it actually, this kind of environment frees me up to do that, because I have time to, to break things. And if I do, rolling things back to where they should be is really easy because it's all pretty standard. So there's a lot of benefits to doing that. So having said that, I know you had mentioned there are a lot of places that don't do this, that don't have a knock or those sorts of things. And I as a testament to kind of what I did at Magnum, my time there, I don't get a lot of calls there either. And we don't have a knock, but we also, I have things monitored away with scripting and things like that, that a lot of those similar functions can be done. Now, obviously, there's no replacement for a human being, but, if you're in a position where you can't hire a staff of people to monitor things 24/7, there are still ways to do that and keep your sanity. And that's where deciding what to monitor comes in. And not only that, but again, having cameras at all of your sites to be able to physically, to watch what you're doing. If you have an older remote control, Amazon, and I unfortunately I can't think of what it's called, but Amazon sells an IoT cellular device that monitors temperature, power, and humidity in a room. And basically you buy it, you get a year of service, and after that, it's like $20 a year for the cellular service. And I love those. I put those in a lot of the sites where I don't have with Magnum, where I don't have a remote control yet that can do that. I also put it into like the data center, things like that. And that is a great device to have. Because again, you can learn a lot. Hey, my air conditioner's broken, or it's getting really warm in the room. I need to do this before this happens. Things like that. To save yourself a trip to the building. Cameras are always great. If you can point a camera at your transmitter, you can see what you're doing. So that's the kinds of things that the knock monitors. And the difference is they're smarter than a remote control, so they can make decisions based on several inputs versus trying to automate it in like an IP system like a Burke or something like that with scripting. You can do that for the basic stuff to avoid phone calls. I know, for years I've had scripts that will reset a transmitter twice before calling you. Just in case that first reset does the job, I don't get a phone call. Or if there's like a power bump or a lightning hit or something that causes the transmitter to trip, there's no reason to call in and hit reset. The script will pick that up and automatically do that for me and then send me a message that it did it. So, there are ways to do that. I think, a ministry like K-LOVE, the focus really is, and some of the reason why we do what we do is the focus is on the listeners. We're in a unique position where people send us money. And the reason they do that is because they believe in what we do. And that's reaching out to people everywhere. And if we're off the air, we don't lose money, we lose hearts and we lose minds. And we take that very seriously. It's very important that we're on the air all the time, that our stations are working, and that, we're always in a good position to reach people. Because if we're off the air, there could be a missed opportunity there. Somebody could need us. Somebody could need the message that we have, or the song that we're playing, or whatever, to touch them in some sort of way. And if we're off the air, we can't do that. So there's a lot of money invested in the operations here for that reason. And again, also to be good stewards, with people supporting us. just, monthly out of their pockets. We owe it to them to take that money and do it wisely, but put together systems that are reliable and that keep things on the air. And you mentioned that oftentimes when K-LOVE comes into a building, a lot of times they change everything, upgrade everything. And we have an AM station that was donated to us up in Upper Michigan. They get the same equipment that we get everywhere else. And it's all really good, stuff that works really well. We've tested it in our shop to make sure that those types of, the type of gear that we're selecting is what we need. And, we all get input on that as well. So a lot of what...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We were talking about all the things that the NOC can monitor and save you from rolling to a site for something that could be done remotely if you have all the right stuff, the right knowledge, and the contact information for things like utility companies. One scenario that I'd like you to address, if not now in a few minutes, is to have all this information, you are depending on some kind of IP connection. And I don't know if you have multiple or just one or just how that works, but if you lose connectivity with the transmitter site, then you really are blind. You don't know what's going on. And maybe you do have to say, Chris, need you to go. If you don't know where the failure in that IP link is. And I wonder if you could address that kind of failure and how that might get handled, at least conceptually.
Sure. Well, we have all of our sites require two forms of connectivity, IP connectivity. It could be cellular, it could be Starlink, it could be fiber, it could be DSL, whatever. Mm-hmm. But we require that so that we always have a connection to our sites. We are, as a group, we feel that we're held to a high standard. Not only just because of the number of facilities that we have, but also because, again, we serve God, and we feel that we don't skimp for that. We do what we can to do that well. So we always have to have positive control of transmitters and EAS and all those sorts of things, and we go through those tests all the time. And even when I put a new rack in, before I can leave, I call the NOC and they verify that they can control the transmitter, that they get all the readings that they need, and that everything is completely up to FCC rules and regulations. So, and again, not everybody can have two different connections into a building and that sort of thing, but it's surprising how easy it is to get IP at a transmitter site these days, and inexpensively. I know AT&T has a fixed wireless product now that's like $80 a month. And so that's all you need to do monitoring and things. I mean, there's really nothing special about that. And fixed wireless is all over the place now. I mean, you can't trip without getting cellular internet for cheap. And excuse me. So at the very least, you can do that and get that information and get that, because I'm telling you, the days of monitoring sites with a phone line, it's over. I mean, you just can't do that anymore. And so to be able to have IP connectivity to monitor all those things, again, I mean, obviously, it can't make a phone call to utility or things like that, but there's a lot that you can do to automate various issues. One of the things I love to do is I would write scripts for backup transmitters. Now, I'm very adamant that I won't allow automated scripts to turn on transmitters, but I can get everything up to the point of turning the RF on a backup with a script. So, let's say a transmitter goes off the air. Well, the script can turn that transmitter completely off, hit the coax switch, turn the filaments on of the second transmitter, or if it's solid state, just be ready to go, and then make the phone call and say, okay, here you go, or send email or whatever, and log in and hit one button and your backup's on. So there are still ways to automate a lot of that stuff. for a place that can't have people to automate. And then there's one other thing that they have that I wasn't really. I'll admit that I should have done or should have done better is documentation of things like account numbers and phone numbers of utility companies, circuit IDs, things like that. They have that all documented. And if you're a one-man shop, to have that information with you and have that information to whoever backs you up, it's a whole lot easier if the power goes out to call the power company and have all of that information handy right away without having to dig for it. So it really is a matter of, if the K-LOVE's system can teach you anything, it's organization. It really is organized and set up in a way where very rarely are we stuck in a situation where, we don't know who to talk to, we don't know who to call, we don't know what to do. Even when equipment fails, I can get a replacement that's identical from our shop. And basically it shows up at my house, I bring it out, swap it out, send the other one back. And if you are a single engineer of multiple stations, I know with Magnum, we tried to standardize on equipment so I could keep spares in a central location for everything. For example, power supply for a gate-to-air transmitter. All of my gate-to-air transmitters use the same supply, so I have two sitting on the shelf. And if one fails, you can grab it, swap it out, and send it back. So, that's part of why K-LOVE does what they do, is they can standardize on things and have that stuff available in the shop for use. So, long story short, in terms of engineers out there who don't have those kinds of resources, and let's be honest, it's, K-LOVE is very blessed and, have plenty of resources available for this stuff. Obviously not a ton, and we're not foolish with it. We do have the resources to do things very well. But not everybody has that, and that's okay. And there are certainly ways to set yourself up to be able to do that. You may not have a knock, but if you have a remote control and some IP, you can do a lot of that job, without hands off. I mean, there's always going to be things that you're going to get calls for because there's not somebody there to answer everything. But you can certainly, you could write a script that says, hey, if the building temperature gets up to 100 degrees, drop the transmitter power down to 50%, things like that. And that's all scripted. So, those are all things that you can do. With K-LOVE, there's just the human element to say, okay, there's this and a few other things that don't look right. So this is what I think, and I'm going to call the chief operator and say, hey, here's the situation. Would you like me to do anything?
Chris, you are really giving us some good information and good advice. And it's great to learn from other organizations how they do things, and then be able to at least share the concepts, if not the individual details, some of which may be, kind of proprietary and important to keep within the organization. Chris Tarr is our guest. For years, Chris has been a co-host on and off through the years, but it's always great to have Chris as a guest to do some teaching on some fundamentals or some teaching on some more esoteric things, what he's learned. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech, our show. Chris, we're going to give you a 1-minute break, and then I'm going to ask you to come back and talk about the Angry Audio Sea Level. Our show is brought to you in part, though, by Max Connect Wireless. And I was just talking to Josh Bone a couple days ago, and this topic of Max Connect Wireless came up. It is amazing what a huge network that Max Connect has of broadcasters at transmitter sites, and also for doing remote broadcasts, as we've done here at This Week in Radio Tech. And lots of people use Max Connect Wireless because, well, tell you what, let's see this testimonial real quick here, and I'll tell you how to get one.
When I first spoke with Josh Bone about Max Connect, he told me they'd work great for remote transmitter sites where connectivity was a challenge. And he's absolutely right. We even have sites where we're using this as a backup to our STL using Max Connect's dual carrier option, and it works perfectly. It works for us, it'll work for you. Max Connect.
Gary's right.
Hundreds of broadcasters are using Max Connect Wireless 4G LTE modems to get reliable internet data to their transmitter sites and the remote broadcasts. MaxConnect.com. Check it out. And thanks so much to Josh Bone for having the vision and the negotiating skills and the persistence to put this whole thing together. It's a real benefit for broadcasters. Thank you, Josh.
In fact, I was talking to Josh and asked him, Josh, it's amazing your motivation. I mean, you have a company of a dozen or more employees, but you keep innovating. And there's other things that Josh is coming out with. We've talked about a few of the current offerings now, but there's more on the table that's coming up. We'll tell you about later. But Max Connect Wireless is just an absolute backbone, not only for his company, Max Connect Wireless, but for so many broadcasters. But check it out. It's prioritized high-speed LTE internet service designed for broadcast applications. Your data goes through, and you get static IP addresses, too. Thanks a lot. All right. Hey, Chris Tarr is here. We're going to talk for a moment about Angry Audio and this amazing audio processor called the C-Level. What is that, Chris Tarr?
I'm going to get to that in just a second. I want to go back a little bit to Max Connect. A great use case that I have with Max Connect is I have a site that does have some unreliable IP. Yeah, it works sometimes it doesn't. And what I have done is I use a firewall with a dual WAN input. And so I have a regular, and this is at Magnum, regular kind of okay internet, and then also a second internet connection through the Max Connect. So if the one fails, it goes over to Max Connect and we stay connected. So it's a great way to do that.
It sure is.
So let's talk about Angry Audio. Let's talk about AGCs. One of my favorite topics, because I've always been hard on processor manufacturers for having horrible automatic gain control stages. And basically what an AGC is, it's a slow hand on the volume control. And it makes sure that your audio is at a pretty consistent level so that you can set your audio processing and get a consistent result from song to song to song. I've found that the AGCs in most processors really aren't that great. The focus has always been on the multiband sections and the clippers and things like that. So, there used to be audio prisms. Then there was the compeller and the Ariane. All of those things were AGCs that were meant to take the place of the built-in audio controllers in the processors and each give you kind of a signature sound and some consistency from song to song to song, so you can set your processor to an optimal level and leave it. Well, the fine folks at Angry Audio, especially Corny with his golden ear, have come up with the C-Level. And the C-Level is an add-on AGC that just it's kind of confusing at first if you're a tech guy, because you look at it and there's really no controls on it. There's very few tweaking options. But then you find out it doesn't need it. You don't need those options because it sounds so good right out of the box. So you take it, you plug it in. It's got digital analog inputs and outputs and pass-throughs and any kind of I/O that you need. It's got one control, basically, that just determines how aggressive the AGC works. And Corny has baked in a lot of AI into this system. And basically, it determines, based on the audio input, what it needs to do. And it adds a little sparkle and a little bit of a colorization to it, but really normalizes the audio so that it's very transparently consistent. And you can set that perfect slot setting on your audio processor, and you know that the audio is going to hit that spot every time. It's great for putting ahead of STLs if you want to, take care of overshoot issues or things like that, prevent distortion and overloading the STL line. It's great for that. And what you do is you put it in, you disable the AGC on your built-in audio AGC on your audio processor. Use this instead, and you are going to get fantastic results. We put it on the air once and bought 20 of them. We loved them that much. So check it out online, angryaudio.com. See if you can get one sent out to you, and try it out. You're going to keep it. I guarantee it. I promise you, you're going to love it. It is like nothing else on the dial. If you want that signature sound, get yourself the Angry Audio C-Level today from angryaudio.com.
Cool. Thanks a lot. And it's absolutely true with it. And they're doing a lot of other very cool, innovative stuff at Angry Audio. So stay tuned for word on that. All right, it's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack. So glad you're here. Chris Tarr. I'm so glad to see Chris. And Chris is almost always a happy guy anyway, but Chris, you seem a little extra happy these days. I had let's see, we talked about internet failure. Boy, gosh. Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that I asked earlier, are there some things that let's imagine that you at some point in the future went back to a world of engineering without working for K-LOVE, and you thought, I'm going to make my life easier by implementing some things that I learned. What are some things that you might implement for stations that don't have the benefit of a good sized company, a network operations center, and the things that K-LOVE does to make their operations better? What are some of the things that you would put it into play if you were a smaller broadcaster?
I think one of the biggest things I've learned is documentation and standardization. To have information at your fingertips is so important. You can monitor things all day long, but if you don't know how to react to those situations, you're stuck. And that's when you start to scramble. Also, delegation. If there's somebody locally or nearby that can handle some of these things that you don't have to handle. And at Magnum, I was very blessed. We found some great guys who can do very specific things, such as transmitter maintenance or resetting things or that sort of thing. And I could set remote control for those certain things. And most modern remotes can do this. You can set certain alarms to dial out certain people. So I was able to cut down on the amount of calls because I didn't call for everything. If there was an AC problem, it would send me an email, but then call the person locally who handles the AC at a specific site. So those are the kinds of things you can do. But document. Site addresses, site phone numbers, the utility companies with the account numbers, because they always ask for that. The actual site address, make sure you have those sorts of things. So that is one thing, that I know K-LOVE does very, very well. And it will save you a ton of time if you have that information at your fingertips.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That's one thing that you would do. Thinking about attitude or your approach to your work. We'd all rather enjoy our work than not, but it's easy to get into a habit of grumbling, complaining. Well, I told the manager this thing was going to fail, and now it has, by golly, and I got to go out and fix it. You yourself haven't suffered from that very much, but plenty of us do. We when there's a failure, we want to not take it personally or like it was our fault. Well, I told him that thing was going to fail. So what are you learning, or what's being reinforced with you? Because you've got a very positive personality. What's being reinforced to you that maybe other engineers, maybe like me sometimes when my attitude is not the best, what can I learn and take away from that?
I'll tell you, it's attitude is everything, and it's always good to assess where you're at. And what I mean by that is I wake up every morning and I think I get to do this. I don't have to do it. I get to do it. And, if you think about, other jobs where you could be sitting at a desk all day or working on a factory floor, all of which are great jobs, but I get to go out every day and play with cool toys and try new things. And as engineers, that's what we get to do. We get paid to have, be able to play with all this stuff. I can't think of anything I'd rather do. So, I know it's easy to get hung up on things, and, you have problems and struggles. And I look at every failure as an opportunity. And I love to solve puzzles. And I look at those things and go, oh, here's a puzzle I get to solve today. So, for me, it's kind of simple because I just have this, it's a corny saying, but the attitude of gratitude. I love what I do, and I wake up every day thinking, boy, I get to do this. And even the worst days are better than most people's best days, because even though things go completely sideways, it's a challenge. And when you overcome that challenge and things work, there is no better feeling than to have solved that. So that's really, my attitude towards things is I just really love what I do. I love to teach. I love to find people that, maybe I can show them something. I love to learn. If they can teach me something, that's fantastic. So, again, it's easy to get out there and, there's an old saying, about a lot of things. People who think the job is horrible are those who've never done it or those who've done it all their lives and never done anything else. So it's easy to get into that slump of, things are difficult, pain in the butt, whatever. And you just have to remind yourself, hey, I mean, think about all the other things I could have to do to support myself. This is what I get to do. And not a lot of people get to do this. So and have fun with it. Just have fun, enjoy it. One of the things people who work alongside me love is, I always joke about I'm ready to party. Let's light this candle, let's get going. I show up to a site and it's like, let's get it done. And when something happens, it's like, oh, let's see how we're going to figure this one out. And we always do. So yeah, I guess, the bottom line is stay positive and realize that we're lucky to do what we get to do. And in my case, especially, I get to do it for God. I mean, that's awesome. We get to touch lives every day. And the fact that I get to be part of that is just so awesome.
Are you driving a lot more? Are you traveling a lot more to different sites now than you were with your previous position?
Not really. My territory is about the same. We have a few more stations and a few farther locations, but yeah, and again, that whole thing, they've gotten down to an art form. So that's really easy to do too. So yeah, I get to travel. I get to meet people. I get to see different sites and things. I mean, it's so much fun.
No, wait. Can I infer from what you said that maybe the knock has this figured out and your travel figured out so much that you never make left turns? It's only right turns to get the transmitter sites? like UPS
it's not
reportedly
it's not the UPS. I was going to say it's not the UPS system, but I would imagine maybe someday we'll have that figured out too.
But they don't send you someplace in the UP and then someplace in southern Wisconsin the next day.
They don't send me anywhere. I choose to do, I choose to where they open up work orders. They tell me what's going on. But that is entirely up to me and what the needs are. So, if it's an minor RDS issue, I'm not going to jump in the car and drive 5 hours for it. If there's a major problem, I sure will. Otherwise, it's, when I'll plan a trip to the area and get everything done in that area that I need to get done. So, and again, that's where some misconceptions are about this style of engineering management. I'm still as independent as I ever was. I still get to make those decisions. The only difference is they let me know when there's something that needs to be attended to. I still decide how that's going to be attended to.
Gotcha. All right. Chris, we're going to expect a tip of the week here because, man, you've been learning so much that in about 2 minutes or so, we're going to look for a tip of the week as we close the show out. Hey, This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Innovonics. And oh my goodness, I rely on their tuners especially. And here's the Sophia 568 tuner. This thing is just amazing. It's also called the HD Radio Site Streamer Plus. And this thing is just amazing. I love it. We have these at some of our stations. The 568 will tune in your HD stations and your normal FM stations as well, of course. It gives you great data remotely. And gives it to you on the front panel as well. So if you're at the transmitter site or at the studio where you've got one of these, yeah, you can use the front panel, but you can also jump into it from, 6,000 miles away, as I have with our stations in Samoa. And you can check out all the RDS. You can check out signal levels. You can see a graph of signal level history. And there's so much that this thing gives you. We've got one of ours situated in Mississippi that is, there's an outdoor antenna, and we can pick up all of our stations but one, and that one is pretty far away. And so I can check on everything from my office that I'm sitting at right here in Nashville, Tennessee. This is great, especially when a listener may call in, leave a message, may send us an email, or if one of our employees says, "Hey, I think there's something wrong with WDTL. It's not sounding right," or "Hey, have we our metadata, our RDS has been stuck on the same song now for 3 days." Oh, okay, well, let's go take a look at that. And I should have alarms set up for that in the site stream, because you can get alarms for audio loss, low signal, RDS errors. Yeah, I could do that. I need to, and even HD reception loss. It does have split mode monitoring too, and that helps you set up your diversity delay on your HD stations. So I've used that at our new stations on Maui. I used our site streamer to listen off the air to both, put the FM in one ear and the HD in the other ear, and tweaked on that delay till it was just exactly right, and it has stayed there just great. Boy, this is just an amazing piece of gear, and I would encourage you very much, implore you to check out this or one of the site streamer products from Innovonics. Well designed. Love this thing. I mean that. That's my personal experience. Not that they're just paying me to say that. They are, but we've put our hard earned money into buying some of these, and I just really love them. And the place to get it, well, of course, is Broadcasters General Store. BGS is what we call them for short, Broadcasters General Store. And the website is bgs.cc. bgs.cc. The website is great. They've been working on this website for years. Keep improving it. You can find out pricing quickly and easily. And some things, you need to check with their salespeople to get your best prices. They're not allowed to advertise the lowest price. It might make the competition mad. But check them out at bgs.cc, or you can give them a call at 352-622-7700. 352-622-7700. Hey, talk to any of the great people there at BGS. Love these folks. Really do. Been buying from them, well, since my days with Sam Phillips in Memphis, Tennessee, in the when was that? That'd be the late 1980s. Thanks a lot, BGS, for sponsoring this week in Radio Tech. All right, Chris, it's time for the Chris Tarr moment of wisdom. Here we are. Chris, what you got?
What I'm going to say, and I oftentimes I don't like to just plug businesses or things like that, but I'm going to this time. T-Mobile has an add-on for their phone service and basically any other phone provider, which is their T-Mobile SpaceX service. And what it is when there's no cellular data or cell signal available, it switches over to satellite. And you can make phone calls, you can send messages, your maps work, all through SpaceX. And it came in so handy when I was up in Upper Michigan this past week to some of my sites, because there are some stretches where there's no cell signal. And when that happened, my phone switched over to satellite, and I had calls and texts, and my maps worked, and all those sorts of things. And I think it's if you have certain plans on T-Mobile, the plan I'm on, it's included. But they do sell it as an add-on to anybody with a current cell phone that can handle it, no matter the carrier. So I highly recommend it if you're out in the field, because it'll take over in sites in areas where you can't get cell service, which honestly is getting smaller and smaller. But when you're in the middle of nowhere and there's no worse feeling than no bars. And all of a sudden this will flip on and you'll see the satellite on there, and you're back in business.
Are you talking about the Upper Peninsula?
Yes. I'm sorry. When I say UP, Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah. And so those Upers don't have a cell tower every 8 miles, like some places.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
They have a lot of trees.
Well, I tried that satellite thing one time, and I kept picking up, that car that Elon Musk put around the world like that. I keep getting that. No, I've actually tested. I was at I'm glad you brought it up, and they seem to have it pretty well operational now. I was using it during a testing period when they would let you send a few text messages before they really opened it up. I was on Mount Haleakala on Maui. That's where we have 3 or 4 FM transmitters, and there's this big observatory up there with lots of secret stuff. And there's an NSA listening post, and you don't want to drive over there because men with machine guns will walk out of the building and ask you to turn around. But anyway, up there, the cell service is not there, but the satellite is. So, yeah, I'm glad that's working for you.
It's a fantastic backup. Yeah.
Here in Middle Tennessee, I can't find a place that doesn't have 4 bars of service, so I don't have a chance to check it out. Chris, I thank you so much for your time today and sharing your knowledge and experience. Thanks for taking the time out. It's great to talk to you again. Good to see you.
Yeah, hopefully things will slow down a little bit. I'll be able to spend a little more time with you, but just a lot of running around right now.
I hear you. Well, thanks again for sharing your knowledge and information. All right. We got to go.
You're welcome.
Chris Tarr has been our guest, and a big thanks to Suncast, who's been our producer, as he is every week. And we better go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.